All right, so let's get started. All right, thank you everyone for joining us today. This is part 3 of 4 in our series that Alto is doing with GCI Asset Fund. So welcome back if you've joined us before, and welcome if you're just joining us now live for the first time. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kate Burke and I work at Alto-IRA. And we also have David Smith and Damian Russell here from GCI Asset Fund. The topic for today is we're going to walk through a live demo of how to open your Alto account and then also accept the offering and sign documents to finalize your investment into GCI Asset Fund. All right, yeah, so this is part 3. How do I get started with Alto? So before we go through the demo, I do want to note that we've covered this in some of our sessions before, but there are 3 primary reasons why more people aren't investing into alternative assets out of their IRA. And the main reason, the big one here, is lack of awareness, which we've actually covered, or we've started to cover in this series of educating you all on why it's beneficial to invest in alternative assets such as GCI Asset Fund using your IRA. There are a lot of benefits, there are a lot of tax advantages. People just don't really know about it, and it's something that we at Alto are trying to change. The other things are that traditionally the process of investing through your IRA into an alternative asset has been incredibly complex and very expensive. So it's really prohibited to ultra high net worth investors or institutional investors. So at Alto, essentially, we're using technology to solve the problem. That means that a process that could have taken anywhere from weeks to months to even open a self-directed IRA with a traditional custodian would take so much paperwork and so many fees just to complete one investment that it just didn't even seem to be worth it. But here at Alto, we make things easier by offering a completely digital solution that you can use to open an account, fund your account, and complete an investment in a fraction of the time that it takes with other traditional self-directed IRA custodians. So yeah, as we're about to recap here, the process for getting started with Alto is super easy and fast. You open your account, you choose your funding source, and then you choose an investment from our existing partners or one that you already know, such as GCI Asset Fund. So. All right, so in order to get started, I'm currently on the demo website, but all you need to do is go to altoira.com and click the sign up button. It'll guide you through the sign up process. So here you'll be prompted to open your investor account where you're required to enter an email and a password and confirm that password. So I'll just do demo one. Oh no, give me 1 second. I have a lot of demo accounts. There we go. Okay, and then once you've used your email to open an account, we do an identity verification for KYC purposes. I will put my name, my date of birth, Social Security, and my address. Once that is complete, we do highly suggest that you enable 2-factor authentication. It's not required, so you can skip this step for now, but it does add an extra layer of security to your account. And then in order to complete the process, you open your Alto-IRA. You choose a type. So we support traditional, Roth, and SEP IRAs. I'm going to go with Roth here. And then all the information that you entered in the KYC check is pre-populated. You just have to add your phone number. Once you confirm that all the information that you entered is correct, you do an e-signature and you create your Alto-IRA. So the next step here is to fund your account. You can skip this for now, but for our processes, I'm just going to walk through it very quickly because it is really easy. So in order to transfer funds into your account, we support cash contributions, and we also support rollovers and transfers from a variety of different retirement accounts. So I'm going to select another Roth IRA. There's a drop down to select a transferring custodian. We support many of them. I'm going to go with Charles Schwab. My account number is that. And then here's another interesting point here is that at the transfer amount stage, you can either transfer all available cash in the IRA, you can transfer a specific amount, or select all securities and transfer all the cash. I'm going to transfer a specific cash amount from my Roth IRA from Schwab. I will do $10,000. And my delivery method, I will choose wire. Once I confirm that all the information I entered again for the transfer is correct, I e-sign. And then from here, there's a transfer of assets request that is required by Alto. It authorizes us to complete the transfer on your behalf so that you don't have to go through the process with your custodian. We have a transfers team that takes care of that for you. And then you have to upload one account statement from the transferring entity. All you do is click to sign. That is done. And then I upload an account statement. I will upload this. And there we go. So this brings you to your dashboard. So you can see very clearly here, once you've opened your Alto account, you set up your alternative IRA. I've initiated the fund transfer into my Roth IRA, which you can also see the status of at the bottom where it says pending fund transfers. So you can see the transferring custodian, the amount, the date that I requested the transfer, and the status. At the next point, you can add a credit card. And in order to invest into GCI Asset Fund, you do need a pro account. So you can either pay by month, which is $25 a month, or $250 a year. And I do want to make a note that the fees that we offer, they're listed on our website, and they are currently the lowest and most competitive pricing across all other self-directed IRA custodians. So it really is a great deal here. So I'm going to select $250 a year. And I will confirm my payment here. I'm going to skip the credit card for now. And that's it. So my Alto-IRA is now created and complete. And then if I would like to find the offering on GCI, you either already have a relationship with GCI, so you've been talking to David or Damien or someone from the team. You can also accept the invitation directly on their website. That is down here in this section here where gciassetfund.com/self-directed IRA. If you go down to explore Alto-IRA, this redirects here where you sign into your account and accept the deal offering documents. And so at this point, if there are no questions, I can turn it over to David and his team, and we might be having some issues with screen sharing, but I think we're all good.
I have a quick question, Kate, if I may.
Sure.
It seems so simple, the sign-up process. How long is the process once I've decided to make an investment in GCI through my Alto account to fund that investment to conclusion? What's the turnaround time on that?
Sure, that's a really great question. So once you do open your Alto-IRA account and it is funded, there is a 7-day holding period before you can complete any investments. If your account is brand new to Alto, if you have an existing account, there's no hold period before you can start investing, but there is a 7-day period where we have to wait in order to proceed with any new investments for new accounts. Once you initiate the transfer, it depends on the custodian, but I will say our transfers team is amazing. And for the large majority of custodians that we work with, it takes a couple of days to get the funds transferred into your Alto account. And then from there, once they're available and the holding period is up, then you're free to make the investment into GCI.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, and I think from here, I will turn it over to David.
Thanks, Kate. I appreciate it again. Kind of following up on what Kate said as we start switching presentation gears. GCI is one of the alternative investments that Alto offers. My name is David Smith. For those who haven't seen any of our previous webinars, I am one of the managing members of Growth Centers International. And today what I'd like to do is a couple of things. Number one, not only maybe introduce, for those of you who are new, the concept of GCI, but also affirm the value proposition that we bring, and furthermore, present to you how we would fit within your portfolio mix. I know we've talked a lot about alternative investments, but even within the realm of alternative investments, there are different, you can find risk and stability along the entire spectrum of alternative investments, the same way you would with any traditional investments. So with that, let me just give a quick recap. Kate, if you don't mind going to the next slide. So at Growth Centers International, again, we are a real estate development fund. That's what we do. And we develop a high-tech, innovative real estate, and we lease that to small to mid-sized cannabis cultivators. So when we talk about high-tech and innovative real estate, what we're doing is we're really setting a new standard for real estate development for cannabis facilities. So no longer is it maybe a warehouse with limited capacities when you start talking about security and infrastructure subject to outages and all kinds of things. What we're doing is we are developing a real estate facility that treats cannabis as an essential service. And that infrastructure that goes behind it includes a tremendous amount of redundancy from an infrastructure perspective, electricity, IT, HVAC, et cetera. In addition to that, security, both perimeter, at the building and throughout the building. And finally, adequate power. I'm sorry, you want to go back, Kate? Adequate power. And what this does by providing this infrastructure in an OpEx model is it allows us to provide a facility to a small to mid-sized cannabis cultivator, which reduces their risk. They all of a sudden have tremendous control over their entire environment from a smartphone. They can rely on some of our white glove services to support their business objectives, and really we enable them to become successful. So as you see here, as we've discussed before, in this new quote unquote green rush, analogous to the gold rush of 1849, we are the ones who are selling those picks and axes in order to mine those fortunes. Next slide, Kate. And just re-emphasizing some of the things that we had mentioned before in terms of enabling success for those small to mid-sized cannabis cultivators. Some of the things we touched upon in terms of security and systems, but really what we're doing is taking a lot of risk out of their supply chain. We are putting them in a better position, especially with an OpEx model, to avoid some large capital expenditure, which is going to impact their balance sheet and create larger than necessary expense when it comes to acquisition of capital. So by preserving cash flow, by limiting some of the debt that's got to be taken on, and acquiring this infrastructure with an OpEx model, now the balance sheet looks a lot better for these cannabis cultivators. The cost of their money is a lot less because some of the financial metrics make a lot more sense. And now they're able to compete. Some of the things that we continue to talk about is the ability to ensure the success of this small to mid-sized cannabis cultivator. So when we start talking about social equity, a big component of that is providing infrastructure in an OpEx model to completely level the playing field for cannabis. Now these small to mid-sized cannabis cultivators who may not necessarily have $5, $10, $50 million at their disposal to invest in this, now they can still compete with big ag, big tobacco, some of the large enterprises we're seeing encroach upon this cannabis space. Next slide, please, Kate. Just statistically, our first project is in Michigan. You can see some of the rationale. Very favorable climate in terms of welcoming cannabis and other industry development initiatives. Seventh largest U.S. market by state. And also when you start talking about impending federal decriminalization, and we've seen some news of that passed last week with throughout the House, and now it's going to the Senate. Now Michigan becomes the centerpiece for distribution throughout the entire Midwest. We assume that international trade is going to quickly follow, and being right across the bridge from Canada, which is a market that is relatively mature, especially compared to the United States, then now we've got another strategic advantage for locating in Michigan. Next slide, Kate. We're going to get into this a little bit later, but besides cannabis, these special purpose facilities are designed to house indoor ag. So whether it's cannabis, whether it's saffron, whether it's herbs, somebody approached me about grapes as well for a vineyard. The reality is this is all indoor agriculture, and indoor agriculture has got a compound annual growth rate that you can see of at least 9%. There's an increasing consumer awareness of the advantages of indoor ag and some of the disadvantages of the traditional model that we have, and this is going to continue to grow. So where that fits in, if you go to the next slide, Kate, is our value prop that we bring to you as an investor. And we've kind of witnessed this, or can conceptualize this, and this is an illustrative graph that shows all of the recessionary times within these pink shaded areas, anywhere from 1870 to 2020. And you can see some of the reasons for that. You've got wars, you've got geopolitical events, you've got crashes in the stock market, you can see real estate market crashes, etc. And the reason why we bring this up is because as you start taking a look at your spectrum of available investments, we love the traditional investments, we love the stock market, mutual funds, etc. However, there is risk associated with that. The risk is when it's time to retire and when it's time to realize gains, where are we within this timeline? All right, are we in a period, a recessionary period that's exemplified by one of these pink shaded areas? Are we going to have to postpone our retirement? Are we going to have to maybe amend some of our plans that we have because all of a sudden we get another shutdown because of continuing pandemic or anything else that we have not foreseen? So if you go to the next slide, Kate, what we try and do is we try and provide some fundamentals in this investment portfolio, right? You can see the recession-proof industries, which most of them are pretty intuitive: consumer staples, grocery stores, cosmetics, etc. Marijuana being deemed an essential service by state regulators, and we presume that it's going to follow suit at the federal level as well, means that during those times in that previous graph where we still start seeing these recessions, there is still some recession-proof associated with that. Furthermore, the slide that I mentioned previously, if anything were to happen with the cannabis industry, now we're also playing within the consumer staple sector. Furthermore, just by nature of our offering, we're providing real estate, the information technology that's associated with growing, that's going to continue to trend, whether it's growing cannabis or any type of agriculture. And then also being the fact that we are the owners of the facility with a substation on site and a partner in Consumers Energy, which is the utility provider out there. They've given us a 30-year rate that's locked. Now we are playing in the energy and the utility space as well. The reason I bring this up is because all the time we speak to investors and they're focused on the top line ROI. How much money am I making? I get 18, 20% in the stock market, et cetera, et cetera. That's fine. That's perfect. That's happening now. What happens when the recession comes? Okay. We're not saying that you have to take your entire portfolio and shift it, but understand that you need to have some balance within that portfolio so that, yes, you are getting the high returns of some of the other investments, and even within alternative investments. Maybe you're in crypto. Fantastic returns, tremendous amount of volatility. Got to be concerned with the timing. Here, we just take a little bit more of a pragmatic and fundamental approach so that, when we start talking about a 12% IRR that's given to our investors, now we're also backing that up with the stability of marijuana, the stability of information technology and real estate, the stability of energy, the stability of consumer staples, with food and indoor agriculture. And if you go to the next slide, Kate, there's also another half of this as well. A continuing trend that we're seeing is impact investing. And quite personally, this is one of the reasons why I was one of the co-founders of this endeavor. I think most of us understand that the quote unquote war on drugs that's gone on for decades has been a complete catastrophe. It's destroyed millions and millions of lives, directly and indirectly. And what we're looking to do is we're looking to take this real estate facility and use it as a platform so that we can help entrepreneurs from these impacted communities develop their own business, not have to face this insurmountable barrier of this large CapEx. And then now they are creating generational wealth within their own families. So it's really about more than just a return on investment. At some point, all of us are going to look at our investment portfolio and wonder what and why we're investing in that. A tremendous number of people have a 401k. They have no idea what's going into it. And what we want to do is not only provide that stability of the IRR with the fundamentals I just mentioned, but also, in addition to that, create a tremendous impact, a social impact that's going to support or hopefully align with most of our goals and most of our philosophies in life. You can see some of the other things as well with the technology that's going to, renewable energy, that's pretty obvious, but there's a lot of innovation in terms of growing, water conservation. We mentioned indoor ag. We are going to have these facilities throughout the country, so there's an opportunity to invest locally. And again, we're really eradicating that stigma of cannabis in terms of being maybe a little bit not as professional as some of the other industries, not necessarily having all the systems in place that the other industries do. From an infrastructure perspective, we are fighting tooth and nail to eradicate that entire stigma. And then finally, from a community development standpoint, even if there are participants who have no desire to grow a plant, this platform affords career development and job creation and entrepreneurial opportunities within some other sectors, design, engineering, building engineering. You're talking about brand marketing, QR coding, the data modeling, the AI, medical research, everything. These again are highly skilled careers, and this is that thing that has to be considered when we start talking about impact investing. All right, Kate, you want to go to the next slide? I think we're going to talk about the actual offering. As has been stated before, Our investment vehicle is offered through what's called a private placement memorandum. Again, there you see it's registered with the SEC under Regulation D, Rule 506C. We're looking for $978,000 in order to complete the entitlements for one particular parcel today. Once those entitlements happen, and by those entitlements, what I'm talking about is all of the planning approvals, all the studies, the design, everything else, so that this project is ready to pull permits and put a shovel in the ground. At that time, we've got another entity who will come in with a more sizable investment of about $50 to $60 million. They will actually buy out the project from GCI. They'll go vertical, they'll own it, they'll manage it, maintain it. And then finally, GCI will go and start entitling the next project, another project in Michigan, Nevada, Virginia, Oregon. And this will just continue to replicate throughout the country. Here you can see here the minimum investment offering is a little under $400,000 and what that means is that even though we're raising $978,000, once we hit this threshold of $391,000, that's when we start, and then we'll cut it off once we reach the benchmark of $978,000. From an investor standpoint, the minimum investment in GCI's project is $10,000. We do have a full prospectus, subscription agreement, operating agreement, all documents available. And as a matter of fact, they should be up on the Alto website as we speak. With that, I think I'm going to pause and take any questions. I don't know if we have any in the chat.
I am not seeing any questions in the chat, but yeah, this was all really great information. And, you know, as David said, all this is available on GCI's website as well as Alto's website. So I know that we'll be following up with some emails once the series is over for anyone who registered. So you'll have all the information at your fingertips to take any action that you need regarding this opportunity.
Fantastic. And if there are any questions, you can also reach us by sending mail to, I don't know if you have that next slide there, Kate. Is there another slide with contact info?
There is not, but
okay, all right, no worries. So you can always send mail to invest@gciassetfund.com.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And we will see you next week for the last episode.
Thank you, Kate.
All right. Bye, everyone.